Hello, I'm Charles Coves, Australasia's passion provocateur. Welcome to this week's episode of the Charles Coves Show. In this week's show, my big idea is to explore aspects of aging. I explore 9 aspects of aging. There are more, but 9 is a good start. Your philosophy on aging is crucial to your ability to make elegant decisions that are going to influence your life, your family's life, the people around you, your friends. Your beliefs about aging also guide your decision making, your behaviours. Clarify these beliefs. Make sure that your beliefs serve you. Stick around and think about these aspects of aging. This weekly show is founded on the formula SA plus P equals S. Self-awareness plus passion equals success. Since 1993, when I left my successful legal career to become Australasia's passion provocateur, I've inspired, provoked, educated audiences in conferences, in workshops, and worked one-on-one with senior executives from large corporations all around the world in how to discover your passion, how to access it, why it's such a clue, why it's such a key to being a success. And my definition of success is that success is your progressive realization of your worthy ideals. My work is well explored in my books, Passionate People Produce, and my second book, Passionate Performance. I've had wonderful feedback from those books, so if you want to go deeper into passion, please consider reading them. This show is also guided by Socrates' famous quote, "The unexamined life is not worth living," so that I hope I am provoking you to examine your life, because then it makes your life worth living. Now, because we're into aging, I think I'm going to be a bit playful in this week's episode. It's time for some jokes early in the piece. Regular viewers, regular listeners will know that I toss in a joke, maybe even 2 jokes. But since we're talking about aging, and since I'm aging, and since you're aging, I think you can handle it. So, first joke. Rodney Dangerfield. I'm a big fan of Rodney Dangerfield. He says, "My luck is so bad that if I bought a cemetery, people would stop dying. Woohoo!" Love it. You can see I'm wearing my red jacket. Red is the colour of passion. So when you see red, I want you to think of passion. I want you to think about your passion, your children's passion. Are they pursuing their passion? Red becomes your trigger to be thinking about this amazing resource that each one of us has if we tap into it. Each week I focus on one big idea. Too many ideas, we get confused. One idea, it might strike a chord with you and you go, yes, I need to do some work on that one idea. That one idea is for me. Each week I share simple and practical resources that will help you put the one idea into practice in your life. This show is not politically correct. In fact, shortly I'll be doing a show on political correctness. I support certain addictions, and I certainly support my addiction for coffee. Stephanie, this is for you, and my darling wife, Julie, who's made this wonderful coffee for me, as well as Nespresso. So everybody get your Nespresso machine. Or talk to Stephanie about even better machines. This show subscribes to the view that we have a spiritual life, that as human beings we are much more than just our minds and our bodies. We have a soul, a spirit, a heart. Indeed, my definition of passion ties into that. Passion is a source of unlimited energy from your soul, your spirit, your heart, that enables you to produce extraordinary results. Why extraordinary? Why extraordinary? Because you are above ordinary, and most people are not pursuing their passion. That's why I produce this show. That's why I deliver this show, because we need more people around the world who are passionate, not maniacal, not tyrannical, not dictatorial, but passionate, coming from their soul space, pursuing what they're truly passionate about. So, what's happened in the last week? Well, I have to report that I went on a big bike ride yesterday. I have trained almost every day, 125 k's on the bike yesterday. The Australian government is lurching from problem to problem. There's conversations around exiting Afghanistan. There's problems for the government in handling, government business organisations. The ongoing debate is around the safety of vaccines. I have told you I will not be taking a vaccine. It is not properly tested. There is question about whether it's a vaccine at all. Those of you who are fearful about coronavirus, which I'm not, it has a death rate tiny. So I think this is a scamdemic. You know my views on that. If you want to be fearful about it, if you want to listen to the government's chosen group of experts wherever you are, that's your choice. Go for it. And if you think I should have a vaccine, think about the nonsense of that idea. Because if you have a vaccine and you think it works, good, you're protected. You don't worry about me having a vaccine. That's the whole point about vaccines. Why are you worried about people who don't take vaccines? Now, I am vaccinated. Trust me, I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I'm in favour of safe and effective vaccines. I am in favour of people becoming immune through life. And if there is a safe and effective vaccine, great, terrific. But I point out to you that when I was a child and when many of you were children, we had 4 or 5 vaccines in our first 4 years of life. Today, under the Australian government, and the US government is worse, under the Australian government no jab, no pay regime, a child in its first 4 years of life has to have 43 vaccines given as double, triple, or quadruple vaccines. Just think about that, 43 compared to 4. So if you think vaccines are safe, I want you to think about why you think vaccines are safe. I used to think they're safe. I no longer do. Anyway, enough of my expression of views around that, but I form my views in all of the ideas I share with you based on investigation. I don't express a view to you on this show if I don't know what I'm talking about. So I'll happily have a debate with any of you that want to debate. Get in touch with me. My email is on the screen, charles@covest.com. Send me an email. I'll have a conversation with you. I explore different experts. I don't pick one expert and say, oh, that's the secret to life. That's like saying there's one answer on vaccines. There's one answer on coronavirus given by the chief health officer of a country or a state. Bullshit, I say. Now, to today's big idea. Before I share this big idea on aging, I invite you to visit our 2 websites, covest.com for corporate programs, for public programs, and charlescovest.com for the self-awareness and passion quest. Please subscribe to this podcast. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel. I'll be most grateful. And if you think this is valuable, please share with your friends, your family, your networks to get the message out, to help people live the examined life, to examine what you believe, to examine your philosophy, to craft your philosophy so that you become a person who lives life in a magnificent state of gratitude, of personal integrity, of feeling capable to do what you want to do, and then getting clear on what it is that you want to do. That's what life is meant to be about. This is an amazing gift that we have, and very few people grasp the gift because they're driven by fear. That's my great big argument against this coronavirus. Fear. It is fear-mongering. I hate fear-mongering. So today's big idea, aspects of aging. I'm going to share 9 aspects of aging. Crafting your aging philosophy will help you make elegant decisions. Exploring your beliefs around aging will help you make elegant decisions. And since we're talking about aging, it's time for another joke on aging. I don't feel old, says Bob Hope. I don't feel anything until noon. Then it's time for my nap. I love Bob Hope. So I invite you to consider how aging is impacting your life presently, the different aspects of it, and how it's going to impact your life into the future. There are many elements. There are some controversial aspects to aging. And one of the dangers of the controversy is that we don't explore those aspects of aging. There's lots of media coverage. Why? Because in Australia, in many countries, in many developed countries, the population is rapidly aging. Now, to give you an idea of that, the Australian government projected 2 years ago that by 2025, because of the rate of aging, because of the people needing support, Australia would need 750,000 additional aged care carers by 2025, and nobody knows where these workers are coming from. I have a view on that, which is one of the 9 aspects I'm going to be talking about. But we have a rapidly aging population. In Japan, the population has started to reduce because it's aging so much. In fact, prognostications for the future about the explosion of the world's population are nonsensical, because all 24 OECD countries have a naturally reducing population. That is, less than 2.1 children per adult. And so if you watch the mainstream media, or the media generally, there's conversations around, hey, we need more young people. Well, Australia is going to be struggling on this. Japan already is. So this element of our lives of aging, and this question of, oh yes, the world's population will keep exploding, is not true. Now, if by this show I'm getting you to think about these elements of aging, and then to craft your philosophy around aging and what you believe about it, it will help you regardless of what age you are now. Let me give you some examples. Number 1, how long, to what age do you believe you are expected to live? What is the life expectancy of you? Well, you've heard me say it before. My belief is that as human beings, if we look after ourselves, we can live happily, comfortably, even drinking coffee, till we're 120 years of age. 120. That's what I believe. And I say to you that your beliefs about aging cause your body's cells to behave in particular ways. So I urge you to think about that and shift your belief, because if you think, oh no, by 70 I should be slowing down, by 80 I'll be dead, what's the point of that? And of course, if you're not passionate about life, why would you want to stick around? I want to stick around till I'm at least 120. At least. I want to be making love when I'm 119. I want to be so healthy. And I said to one of my friends, Peter, yesterday on the telephone, he's in a bad way. He's got 3 significant health problems. And I said his beliefs about health, his beliefs about the power of his belief over his body are crucial. I say to you that your beliefs about your aging are crucial to the speed at which you are going to age. And I point out that science has clearly proven to us that in the next 12 months, you will have a new physical body, a new one, because every cell gets rejuvenated. So what you believe about this is going to impact on the speed of aging. Start to do some learning about that. Aspect number 2, retirement. Retirement. I say retirement is an unnatural act. Nothing in nature retires. Animals don't, birds don't, plants don't. When you retire, you become very tired. And this idea that work is something that you do to endure, to survive, and your reward is retirement, I say that's a stupid, nonsensical model. I reject it. I never want to retire. And my definition of retirement is when you cease to make a meaningful contribution. Retirement is when I cease to make a meaningful contribution. I want to be making a meaningful contribution to the planet till I'm at least 120. And it is that engagement with life that will keep me young, will keep you young. If you think the purpose of work is to enable you to retire, that drives your decision making. Number 3, your own health care. If you're 70 years of age, and like my friend Peter, who's 75, and he starts to go, I should be slowing down, that giving up on the rejuvenation capability of your body means that you will indeed wear out and die very quickly. And if you're not making a meaningful contribution, which ties into point 2, and if you're not looking after yourself physically, you get tired. And then you go, oh, look, I might as well, like Bob Hope, have a nap at midday every day, because there's no point to your life. That also ties into a dementia aspect, which is not one of them. That's a bonus idea. Dementia is a function of not being engaged, of not waking up every morning and going, I've got a meaningful contribution to make. So I urge you to understand that it doesn't matter what age you are, you can make this decision to take care of your health, and that also will impact on any possible impact that a coronavirus or any flu virus or any bug will have, because your body is an amazing machine that will fight any disease. 4th aspect, superannuation. It's been projected to go from 9% to 10% to 12% in Australia. That is a significant reduction in disposable cash by Australians. And I challenge the financial services organisations who are driving this agenda, because they take 25% of all of these superannuation contributions in fees and income to them. There is a serious debate going on about superannuation as to whether this makes sense to have you losing 12% of your income today for some time in the future, when you've got all these big financial services companies ripping out the fees. And I assure you they'd rip it out. I drafted my first superannuation deed in 1975 when I worked at Mallison's, that was then one of the biggest law firms in Australia. I have a deep understanding of superannuation, and it is an area of experts. They will confuse you, and your philosophy, your thinking, your beliefs around superannuation. Oh yes, I've got to give my money to these organisations to manage it. Oh yes, because I'm going to be so terrified because I won't be able to look after myself. Think about what you actually think about that. The 5th aspect, aged care facilities. Do you expect to go into an aged care facility where they're going to give you crappy coffee, unlike the coffee that I drink? Are you going to put your parents into these facilities? And if you put them in the facilities, are you just going to forget about them? And we've just had a Royal Commission on the quality of aged care, and it was a damning outcome. Many aged care facilities do not look after their residents, their captives, very well at all. I said we're going to need 750,000 extra carers. Okay, you think about that. If you forget about your relatives in an aged care facility because you haven't got time, just think about that. What are you actually saying? What is the philosophy behind your decision to not invest time to visit people in aged care facilities? And then you look back and say, is that the best thing to do? Of course, it's inconvenient to have an older person in a house. But I grew up with my grandmother, and my mother looked after her mother. My mother's sister looked after her mother. There was no aged care pushing away into an aged care facility. So this is a philosophical issue as well. And then how do you know how well people are being treated in these aged care facilities? Aspect number 6 then is the quality of care in that facility. And I'm working with a group to bring Filipino qualified aged care nurses to Australia. But of course, many of you would say, oh, there's a shortage of jobs in this country. No, there's not. There's a shortage of ready, able, willing workers. I do not want to care. I'm not passionate about caring for aged care carers, but Filipino nurses are magnificent. If you want to know more about this, please get in touch with me. I have some interesting information for you about it, an interesting business opportunity. The 7th aspect is the health care. So not just the normal care of aged care people, but aged people in aged care facilities who have doctors coming in, looking in, oh, how are you, good, and they consider that a consultation. They send a bill to Medicare. Oh yes, I've had a look at your mother, your father, your grandparents, they're in good shape. And then what they do is and this has been proven from the Royal Commission, these facilities prescribe drugs to these residents that actually make their thinking fuzzy. They have them sitting doing nothing all day. No wonder they disappear. Now, your understanding of the proper medical treatment of your aged care, of your aged relative who might be in such a facility, I challenge you to take an interest. I challenge you to get a list from your aged relative of every single drug they're being prescribed. And I've had through my friend Graham, who does great work, he helped to get a black box warning onto Risperdal for people over 80 in this country. Johnson & Johnson had a black box warning on it in America, but these drugs, Risperdal, risperidone, were being handed out like lolly water in these aged care facilities because they basically knock out the residents so that they're easy to handle. How would you like your relatives being treated that way? The 8th aspect. Do you know that there is abuse of aged citizens in all countries? And there are people who stand to inherit significant money from the death of people in aged care facilities. So here's where belief and philosophy comes, because if you're waiting on an inheritance from the death of an aged relative or an aged friend in a facility, you, in your heart of hearts, might not want that person to live a long time. I suspect there's a big conflict there. I see it. It came out in the Royal Commission on Aged Care. There is violence against aged citizens in our community, in other communities. And my philosophy is having aged people around to guide grandchildren and great-grandchildren is a crucial element to the culture that we have in any country, to Australia, America, any country. Pushing aged people out of sight, out of mind, is a bad strategy in terms of our culture. I sometimes do presentations to Rotary groups when I talk about the crucial role that grandparents can play in the education of their grandchildren. And the 9th aspect is funeral arrangements. I urge you to think about your attitude to funerals, and if you have an aged relative, have the conversation. What sort of funeral do you want? Now, here we are. Today is the funeral of Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh, and he planned his funeral 30 years ago. The Queen has planned her funeral. If it's okay for them to plan it, it's okay for you to plan it. And there's real benefits, particularly in bigger families, of planning funeral arrangements. So, I hope I've provoked you on some issues around aging. As I said, there are more, but it's a good 9 issues for you to think about. Think about your philosophy, think about your beliefs around these issues, and clarify them consciously. Say, hey, this is what I believe. This is what I think we should do. This is what I think how we should handle our aged relatives. This is how we should help them be healthy. This is how we should reduce their risks of dementia by keeping them engaged in life. So, some tools. Let's get some. I was a bit serious there, wasn't I? Sorry about that, but it's time for a bit of humour on aging. Will Rogers, famous American philosopher. We could certainly slow the aging process down if it had to work its way through Parliament. Ha! Next one. Winston Churchill said, don't worry about avoiding temptation. As you grow older, it will avoid you. And Woody Allen said, on the question of temptation, best way to handle temptation, just give right in. Phyllis Diller, great comedian. Maybe it's true that life begins at 50, but everything else starts to wear out, fall out, or spread out. And then Billy Crystal. By the time a man is wise enough to watch his step, he's too old to go anywhere. Love it. My song for the week, of course, is by the Beatles. When I get older, losing my hair, many years from now, will you still need me? Will you still feed me when I'm 64? Bit of fun there. My quote for the week. Worry. You see, we're talking about aging. I'm worried about when I'm aging. Worry is like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but doesn't get you anywhere. Worry is like a rocking chair. So you're worried about your future, about your superannuation, about retirement, about blah, blah, blah. Worry is like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but doesn't get you anywhere. My book of the week is by Matt Ridley, wonderful, wonderful writer, British writer, science, investigative journalist on nature. I don't know what he's written about coffee. The book is Nature via Nurture. I have had unthinking people tell me that my genetics say I'm going to die at 70. Again, I use the word bullshit, and I don't use it often, but that makes me so angry. Matt Ridley's book, Nature via Nurture, shows you that you are not bound by your genetics. You see, people say, oh, my father died of a heart attack at 61. So, what was his behaviour like? Do you think your behaviour around your health has an impact on how long you're going to live? Of course it does. Anybody who says you are going to die at 61 because your father died at 61 is talking BS. Nature via Nurture will shift your thinking that you have got a nature, you have got a DNA, you have got genetics, but how you nurture what you have will dictate the outcome. So when you shift your belief around how long you're supposed to live, that will impact on the genetics that you have inside of you. My spiritual tip is to think about whether you can make a community contribution to help our aged care sector. Can you, when you're saying, who can I help in the community, can you go and do something for aged relatives, aged friends that you have? Can you make a decision to spend time thinking about them, helping them, getting them to do exercise? My health tip for you is to understand the impact of your beliefs on your health. We've talked about it. Your health is strongly governed by what you believe about how your body functions, what you believe about how healthy you're supposed to be, what you believe about your body's ability to handle disease, and your belief about how old you are supposed to be when you die. Very few people die of old age. Most die of parts failure through lack of care, not through old age. Some people say, I don't want to be in an aged care facility when I'm 101 and all my friends have died. No, that's the point. That's the point. You don't have to do that because you can stay intensely interested. This is an amazing ability that we have. I might talk about some other aspects of aging because there's many more that I could talk about. You know, that it's people who are not interested. One of the great stories that I read was of a 104-year-old financial advisor in New York who went to the office every single day during the week, Monday to Friday. 104. That's my vision of what life is meant to be, because he loved doing it, and I'm doing what I love doing. That's why this show is so important. What do you love doing? So, plenty of ways to think about how thinking about aging, crafting a philosophy about aging will have profound impacts on the quality of your decision making, on whether you make elegant decisions or not. I invite you to visit our websites again, covest.com, charlescovest.com. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. Subscribe to the podcast. Share this show with your friends. Share it with your elderly relatives and ask them, are you doing the right thing by them? That's an interesting question. Are you brave enough to do that? I've gone a little bit over time today, but as you can see, I'm passionate about this topic. I know a fair bit about it. As I said earlier, I don't talk to you about stuff about which I don't know anything. I haven't once talked about quarks. I haven't once talked about nuclear fission, although I do know a little bit about that, strangely enough. Anyway, have a magnificent week. Have a week full of passion. Do something risky. Think about what you think about aging. Think about crafting your philosophy on aging that will serve you. Thank you for being with us. I look forward to being with you next week. Bye.